Well, here we are once again. I was getting ready for my own live show tonight. It's a 2000K subscriber celebration, and also going to hop on the Salty Nerds channel because he just hit 5,000 later today. And what do I see? Guys, at some point we have to stop calling these things adaptations. Of course, I'm referring to a recent article from John F. Trent at Bounding into Comics talking about the news from Wheel of Time by Rafe Judkins. Now I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Prophet of the Dragon, Steve. Tell
Hey,
me what this article is about and why you were losing it just a few moments ago
I
talking about
I
this.
think I'm still losing it a little bit. It's basically just about how we're going to spend time with Alana and her two, I get gay warders. I guess that's not even a mystery anymore, and explore their relationship more, and just get into it. Just we're going to get into that relationship as much as possible because that's important.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And it's in Rafe Judkins' own words. He says he's going to include more LGBTQ plus XYZ relationships, as well as explore polyamorous relationships. Brahma, what is your take on this stuff?
My take is it's not in the books. I mean, yes, we've got some mention of things that aren't explicitly stated at any point. We do know that there are some polyamorous relationships, and that's mostly a cultural thing in the books. It is not just being crude, having threesomes, doing whatever the hell you want at any given time in the book. I mean, the relationships between characters are carefully thought out by Jordan, and we're not getting that from the showrunner.
Matt and Bearable 73, what's your take on this stuff?
The central story in Wheel of Time is not romantic relationships. That's secondary or tertiary character fluff development or whatever. And you could edit it all out of the books and it'd still be amazing. And what he's doing, Judkins here, he's not making an adaptation. He's making, you can call it a soap opera, or you can call it a personal story, a self-insert that he wants to, whatever you want to call it. It's not an adaptation. It's something else entirely. And he seems to be centralizing on these relationships of any sort, and not on the actual story that's essential.
Well, we
well,
saw it in the Brahma, I'll let you talk, but we saw it in the first season with Nynaeve.
yeah.
Do you guys how many books did it take of being separated from Tam and her being chaste and pure and being afraid of showing too much cleavage? Suddenly she's having one night stands in
Yeah.
the middle of season 1. Sorry, go
Well,
ahead, Brahma.
I think it's I think that's not till but fires of heaven. But I mean, I think and even I mean, we were talking about this before. Even above and all that for me is we have this whole LGBTQ stuff going on, but there's a big the big lie they keep trying to feed all of us is that all of us Wheel of Time readers and everybody that's read these books is that these books are so wide and expansive. How many times have we heard it? Too much to fill in, too much to put
Yep.
in. We can't
Mhm.
fit all of it in, right? Well, if you're going to spend time, which I just made a video following Leandrin's backstory and her darker side and exploring Leandrin, who
Who
cares?
cares? Who cares?
Exploring Alana and her backstory and her warders, who cares? Moraine and Lan, who don't show up in the Great Hunt hardly at all, they're going to have more time than probably any of them, including Rand. Who cares? This is all a lie to just get injected what he wants to inject in there. They have plenty of time. They're choosing not to do it, and that is
Agreed.
above all the for me, the LGBTQ stuff is of course terrible, but just the flat out lying about not being able to do the story as is infuriating to me.
Well, they don't have time. Well, first of all, in my opinion, they don't have the talent to tell this story. It would be hard for a talented filmmaker and talented writers, neither of which, in my opinion, this production has. Brahma, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, ultimately, this story is multiple heroes' stories. You know, 5 or 6 different characters that all have their hero arc. So, yeah,
Mhm.
like Steve was saying, there really is, there's no reason to have the soap opera in there.
Yeah.
The relationships develop as the relationships develop. There is no reason really to age these people up. if you're going to have a multiple season show, why did we need to start with them as adults, and why did Rand and Egwene have to get it on in the very first episode within the first, few minutes? Same with
Agreed.
Nynaeve, like you were saying. I mean, the books, they do have some salacious, parts to them. I mean, Matt gets pursued by a certain character later, and she basically repeatedly forces herself upon him. I mean, there are many scenes where there is nudity. I mean, it's not that Jordan's stuff was just clean as the driven snow, but it was used for different things. It wasn't. I mean, we weren't reading, the trashy novel stuff. It was few and far between when we had actual, sexual topics or anything like that in the books.
Yeah,
And
it was not the focus of
it
this book.
served the story.
And that's the whole point, is it was part of the larger picture. And also, Robert Jordan's books, I'm going to say this, and maybe I'll get canceled for the 80th million time, are not a celebration of LGBTQ plus AI, whatever it is, relationships. They are not an allegory for the current year agendas. They were a fantasy story that was modeled after J.R.R. Tolkien's works. And the characters within them have clearly defined heroes' journeys. And the bad guys and bad women, they're villains. They don't need to have sympathetic backstories like Steve was talking about with Leandrin. There is so much story to tell in such an expansive world in 15 books that Robert Jordan started and Brandon Sanderson finished after Jordan's death in 2008. But no, Rafe Judkins, like everything else that we have seen out there, has stolen, in my opinion, the names and the title that Robert Jordan, of a world that Robert Jordan created, for the reason of inserting his ideology and tormenting us on Twitter, which he has done to threaten those of us who don't like this unfaithful adaptation with making even more characters aligned with his own sexuality and own ideology.
Well, and that's also the other thing. The relationships in this series are very, very clearly spelled out, except for maybe with the Aiel. There's the sisters of the spear, the maidens. There's a little bit of maybe to play with if you wanted to there. But I mean, Egwene has her love interest. Moraine has her love interest. So
which is a man. Stop right there. Moiraine. And now, if you watched season 1 of Rafe Judkins' non-adaptation of Wheel of Time, you saw Moiraine in a lesbian relationship with Siwan Sanche, who is the Amerlin seat of the Aes Sedai. There are so many problems with that, and I'm not even listening to this. This is another turning of the wheel. Okay,
No.
Moiraine ends up with a man. Siwan Sanche ends up with a man, and there are no detours on that road. Am I wrong?
No, the whole turning of the wheel thing is just an excuse to do whatever they want. I've said that from the beginning. Is the turning of the wheel thing is just a thing to try and have carte blanche and do whatever the heck that we feel like. It's just complete BS. Sorry, Matt.
But Jordan, see, that's the thing that's important about this. Jordan didn't write these relationships just to have them have relationships. Like these characters wind up with people they as part of the story development. Maureen didn't just meet a random dude to marry, and then that's all he was ever there for. Who she wound up with was part of the story, and why they were together was organic and part of the story. People, a man and a woman who are hetero in those circumstances might get together. That's how we develop the story. The same thing with Siwan and Gareth.
Gareth.
I keep wanting to say Garth, Gareth. They wound up working closely together by force, and the relationship happened, and so
things
on.
evolved.
The relationships they coexist, and they build each other up to the last. Everybody is better because of their counterpart by the end of the series. Whether it's Rand and the 3 girls or Gareth and Siwan's, Gareth's able to temper Siwan's temper. Siwan's able to give Gareth a lot. These relationships are built, just like you said, to make these characters learn and grow and expand and get better for the epic last battle that happens at the end.
And Salty, you had
wait 1 second, Rama. To prove it true, if you think about the characters who we know have marriages or relationships, and whose spouses or whatever aren't main story characters or supporting characters, they'll get mentioned. Maybe they'll be in a scene, but then you'll never see them again. You know, if you go back and think of the set of when they met one of the general's wives or something like that, she was in a scene, but she didn't play no part in the story, so Jordan never used her again. You know, Jordan knew what he was doing.
Well, yeah, he did. And not only that, but he was a huge pain in the ass and stickler for getting details right. Obviously, and I've quoted this in several other channels, including OBG70, who I think on Ren Nerd's stream with a couple days ago, talking about the casting of Avendia.
Well, you had a semi-hot take a few minutes ago.
Oh, I did? What was that? Telling the truth? Which one?
Yeah. So, but I would actually push that take farther. The closest thing we have to those relationships in the book, the LGBTQ. So, I mean, the Red Aja is the closest thing we see to him actually labeling anybody who might be, swinging that direction.
I agree.
And they're made out to be man-hating, angry women.
Yep.
So it was definitely not a praise of it.
No, and not only that, but they are very vengeful, and they are conniving, and they have a 3,000-year problem with the Blue Aja. Yes. Now, again, let's go back to season 1 and what Rafe Judkins did. After Moiraine comes back to the tower, what happens? Liandrin hits on Moiraine. That would never happen in a million years. Those two Ajas hate each other. And we see what happens once you read the books and what the Red Aja do to the Blues, to the point where the Blues have to leave the tower.
Well,
so, I mean...
On top of that, Moiraine says that Liandrin has a secret boyfriend in White... in one of the town. I forget which town.
Yes!
So it's like... Why? No. What? Liandrin hates, like, she would kill every man on sight if she could.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. I mean, again, it's one thing that they have agenda, but in my opinion, they're some of the most incompetent writers outside of Halo on Paramount Plus. They do not care about the story at all. I've said this before. Somebody wrote down the character names on Post-it notes, and then once they age these characters up, and I said it back in October and got called a racist and an istinophobe, that those changes are going to cause fractal essential core changes to the world, and they have. The reason why these characters were aged up were to insert exactly the ideology and the narrative that Rafe Judkins is ramming in here. I see nothing about love for Robert Jordan's story or about these characters. You know, we've got a really good comment in chat from Six, and hail to you, Six, says, what is the difference between polyamorous and sleeping around? Well, in the book, there is a character by the name of Rand, and I know that even though that character had the most screen time in season 1, we know nothing about him, and he's just basically a block of wood. The problem is that in the books are all about Rand. This is all about Rand's journey, and everyone else is orbiting around them in their own, has Brahma put it, their own hero's journey in their characters' arcs. Now, is it polyamorous? I don't know if that's the right word, but spoiler alert, Rand ends up with 3 women, and let's say that one more time. 3 females. I know what Rafe Judkins is going to do, and he's going to laugh at us and mock us on social media because of it, but it is 3 women, and we have been introduced to those 3 women with the exception of one in the first season. Discuss on that and what that relationship is. Is it a big rolling around, hot, sexy time foursome, or what is it, you guys?
It'd be nice, but it's not. I mean, they basically take turns. I mean, they almost adapt the Aiel way of thinking, which is the 3 women become sisters, and they share Rand in their own way at their own time. So, you know, Rand will be flying all over the world, and he'll stop in and hang out with Elaine, and then he'll stop in and hang out with the Avienda, or then he'll go with Min. You know, it's not just some big, you know, orgy, for lack of a better term. Even though that may be how, if they even get together in this, that's how it'll be portrayed.
Yeah, Lyle Hammock, you're not wrong. And from the way it looks, they're not only not going to stick to book 2, but they're going to compress book 2, 3, and they seem to be jumping to 6. 2.
Yeah, who knows?
What's your take on that, Matt, as far as this compression of timeline? And we've all heard about another show with a compressed timeline, but what's your take with
My
that?
guess so far, from what Wheel of Time is, and they're skipping everything with Tyr in it. Like they're just gonna write it out or whatever. And all the Borderland stuff, there's no way based on what they've done already that those 2 areas can be brought back into this narrative he's creating without like feeling like, wait a minute, didn't they just kill off half of that guy's army or whatever? That type of logic for the person watching it. They're going. Also, we know they cut out like a ton of Matt's storyline. We just by the way they've done it already.
That was never Matt. That was never the character of Matt. But then again, it was never the character of Perrin, and it sure as hell wasn't my Rand. But none of the Tavern are actually from the book. They're not even close. They just have stolen identities for the purpose of being tools for agenda. Let me call out a couple of people in the chat. Sorry, Brahma. I want to say hey to Purple Valkyrie, Paul Wolfley, Lyle Hammock, Jaden Hamilton, that 70s rock fan, Paul Wolfley. You guys are fantastic. We've got Nerdscape as well. And I just want to acknowledge everybody. And I am so behind on the chat because this was Pope Metallicus is in here kicking it hardcore. Great to see you. We also have PKG, Captain Trek. You guys are awesome for showing up. And we also have Brightest Day. Hail to you, everybody. If I've missed you, I'll get you on the next go around. But Brahma, go ahead.
So where they really, really screwed up, besides the characters, but in doing this story and having to compress the time, is they led off with Moraine giving a speech about what's going on. We already had that in the books. It was called The Prophecy of the Dragon. And they haven't, that I can remember, even mentioned the actual prophecy of the dragon or the things that he has to do to fulfill that prophecy. They just kind of said, okay, well, I guess you're the dragon, at the end of it. So I mean, we're not seeing the key elements that drove the story, which up until what is it, like book 10? I mean, he's fulfilling parts of the prophecy to show that he is who he is.
He doesn't fully
jump in.
I'm sorry.
Let me jump in. No, let me jump in. I want to call out Zax, who could not be with us today. Brother, we miss you, but I'm glad you're in there. And he has a hot Zax takes. He says, guys, either Perrin is a power bottom for Rand or you're all bigots. And you know what? The problem is Zax is probably not even kidding. And that's why we're upset about this show. Go ahead.
I think he's right.
Assuming this goes 5 years, I got a prediction that's going to, I'm 90% going to prove right. Rand is going to do nothing like all season. Then in the final episode of every season, some female is going to give him a Deus Ex Machina, and he's going to do some dragon-y thing, and they're going to say, well, the dragon did it at the end. That's how they do every single season based on what we're seeing so far.
Look at what we've got from PKG says, I just want to see Super Soldier Commando Nynaeve take out Trollocs with her bare hands while also having 0 flaws. Well, we kind of saw that, didn't we? In episode, she had a dagger, though. She is the bestest ever. And not only that, but she has the magical Bob Marley dreadlocks, which in that cave scene where that was entirely made up. None of it made sense, and Nynaeve was overpowered and has remained overpowered. And now she can rise from the dead because you can use the power to raise the dead. But there's no problem in Robert Jordan's own book saying you cannot use the magic, the one power to do that.
Well, and that's the other thing about that. Like, one of the most powerful scenes for Rand is when he does. He's so powerful, he raises the dead. And the kid is just so messed up that he basically just it scars him for the whole journey of it's like just ignore that one part. It is just like to be like, oh, we can raise the dead. It's like that is an important character building moment for Rand, who doesn't believe he's the dragon till he follows what, like Braun was saying, the prophecies, and he finally just goes, you know what, I'm gonna go to Tyr, because if I'm the dragon, I'm gonna get the sword. And that's it.
Let me just use Rafe Judkins' words because I don't want to make it look like I'm making this up. This is, I quote, I mean, we predominantly in the show have been trying to take things that were suggested or hinted at being LGBTQ plus XYZ relationships in the books and sort of expanding on them, bringing those out, letting us know more about their characters and their feelings for one another's, or to take things that we don't know what the relationship is between those two people and giving them something. Who said Rafe Judkins knows better than Robert Jordan? And let's be honest about it, Brandon Sanderson. I am not going to defend Brandon Sanderson. I'm not going to defend him. I think he has gotten close to the edge as he can from distancing himself on this. And we can talk about the reasons why in another show. But what Rafe Judkins has literally done now and told us is that this is not Robert Jordan's story. This is Rafe Judkins' self-insert agenda. Is that unfair?
No, I think it's absolutely correct. I mean, it's a shade. It's not even a shade. It's just like you said, stolen names and stolen title. That's it. There's nothing in there that's Wheel of Time.
Brahma, what's your take on that?
Well, the shame of all of this is that, for a few years we've been upset that they are trying to convert male characters and gender swapping them into females. And in this story, you already had that set up. You already had the strong female characters. And it could have been the exact show that everybody had been asking for without forcing it in. But now we've had to take it to, well, okay, we've got the strong female characters in there and the strong heroes in there. Let's throw in the rest of our identity politics. And it's ruining it.
And we actually have someone who does write good books. Hail to you, Adega Outlaw says, inferring from something that is not implied is just a weak attempt at covering a lie. And that, my friends, is why Adega Outlaw is a good writer. Go ahead.
Well, and that's how far they're taking it. I mean, like, the suggested relationship is what, 1 or 2 lines about Mate Suan and Moraine being pillow friends when they were novices. I mean, that makes them, being in a gay relationship years and years when they're sisters.
I don't agree with that take. I reject that take because I have known plenty of women who did have friendly relationships and did have sleepovers, and none of it turned into what they're saying. I mean, again, we're not the problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm just saying that's what he's inferring.
I know. I'm not upset at you, Steve. You know that. I get going on a roll. But the thing here is that we again are seeing what Hollywood is. They are showing us who they are by how they view the world and what they choose to focus on. Let me get to the second part of what Rafe Judkins says. And this is continuing his earlier quote. He said, and I think, referring to the sexuality focus and an insert of LGBTQ plus stuff, I think that is what we'll continue to do with the show the whole way through the series. You will see us lean into those places that are already so present in the books and then try to find room to tell more of an emotional history of some of those characters. And a lot of times that will include their relationships with people, be they of the same gender, a different one, or here it is, or ungendered. Discuss. I every time I read this, my blood pressure goes through the roof. Who does he think he is? Who gave him a right? Oh, I know who gave him a right. Amazon.
No, Harriet gave him the right.
Harriet, there it is, man. There it is. Like, I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said that
since the beginning. My second tweet ever when I first saw that first episode was, what the hell did Harriet do? Or something like that.
Harriet is supposed to be the gatekeeper, like Chris Tolkien was for Lord of the Rings. She was supposed to be one defending this stuff and making sure that it was adapted correctly and given to good hands, like it was, for the most part, to Brandon Sanderson. And not everybody loves what Brandon did with the 3 books. I'm fine with them. They're not the best 3 books, but that was what she's supposed to be doing, and she gave it away.
And let's say hypothetically, I don't know, I don't think this is true. I'm just saying hypothetically that Jordan actually sold the rights 10, 15 years ago or whatever, and whatever. For her not to speak out, because she basically was his editor for all these books, worked hand in hand with him, and they're both the same style of second wave feminists. So, and this stuff, that intersectional stuff that Judkins is doing, is in stark contrast to the type of feminism that Jordan and his wife support. So for her not to even come out and say, this isn't what my husband would have wanted, or this isn't how he, she can do it respectfully. She can say they have the rights. I personally think it's not respectful to his work or whatever, but they have the rights. She could do something like that, and I'd be happy if at least she would say something like that.
Yeah, but there were a lot of zeros on that check, and when you sign over rights, you don't have the right to say that anymore because you got all those zeros, right or wrong. I think you're right in saying that. It's incredibly disappointing. Brahma, what's your take on this fixation with gender and sexuality and current year politics? Just, it's not even being gently inserted. It's just slammed in. It's dumped like a garbage truck in our front yard, and Rafe Judkins is laughing at us. That's how I feel now.
Yeah, I mean, it directly reflects to politics that are going on right now. I mean, we've got the intersectional, hierarchy that's going on right now, and it's also, they want the grim dark that Game of Thrones had. I mean, Game of Thrones is where that stuff kind of fit into the story. But just throwing it in for the hell of it doesn't work here. And although I would not say anything about specific, other people on this platform, but we didn't do a very good job of gatekeeping it either. I mean, some of us did, but there are a large segment that that are absolutely enjoying this show.
They sold out.
That's bad too.
They sold out to their access. All the people that were the high. That's how I ended up making my channel, was all the people that I tried to watch, because some of them were just, I'm not trying to bash other channels, but I just couldn't watch them, right? And then I've seen Daniel Green mentioned a few times. That was basically where I went for my fantasy stuff, and it just angered me so much. They went to London, and all of a sudden they go to London premiere, get all their knickknacks and their access, and all of a sudden they all love this stuff that's on the screen, and they gave us a bunch of bullshit. So
that's what brought me back. That's what brought me back to the channel. I walked away from YouTube because, like a lot of people, you get frustrated. You're making content, you're wondering why no one's watching. And I've told this story before. It wasn't until there was something I truly deeply cared about and actually spoke from my heart instead of trying to sound like other people. That's when the channel took off. And again, I'm very blessed, and I'm very lucky and very grateful for being over 2K now. And that's the kind of show we're going to have tonight. I'm going to read you guys one more quote, then we're going to wrap it up, because I know, Steve, you have to go. So Judkins further revealed that season 2 will explore the relationship between Alana Mosvani and her two warders, Maxim and Ivan, saying you'll see a lot more actually in season 2 of one of those relationships. We get to delve into more of that and understand a little bit more about how those three parts fit together and how they're not just one relationship. There's 3 relationships. Steve, run with this.
Well,
tell me about how important Alana Mosvani is to the first 4 books of Robert Jordan.
She's not even in them. I think she doesn't show till 3. Thank you. She doesn't show up till Dragon Reborn. Her main function is nothing. She's not important to this. She's not important at all. 0.
Exactly.
I don't know if you. I don't even know if you know the names of the warders. They're so unimportant. I don't know their names off the top of their head.
I agree. I couldn't remember them either.
You know her most important warder's name? Randall Thor.
Yep, but that happens much later. That happens much later and against his will. So
exactly.
With that one, this Alana in the show acts nothing like the Alana in the book.
Yeah,
that Alana in the book was not domineering. She was not. I'm trying to think of the right way to say this.
Mary Sue. Sue.
Yeah, he was concerned about Rand, and sometimes she thought she was hurting him with the bond. Sometimes she was protecting him. She was a very conflicted character, in a complicated world. This Alana we're seeing here is like, I don't know. It's like Xena almost.
Well, this is the fallout from Suwain and Moraine being in a relationship. Moraine and Alana were not confidants. They were not friends. They were not anything. Moraine
all.
and they were
Not
nothing.
at all.
And so now Suwain is now her love interest. So now she has to have a confidant. So that's now Alana. So you've now sacrificed Suwan and Moraine's relationship, and you have to replace that with someone. So we just ham fist Alana in there.
So Rafe Judkins is going to do what he did in season 1, which is to derail if someone wanted to actually try to adapt the Eye of the World. He didn't fail miserably. He succeeded brilliantly at representing talking points, ideology, Marxism, and intersectional feminism. That's what he succeeded at. The book was of absolutely no concern to him. We're getting the same thing rehashed here, where we had Stefan, who order of, oh damn it, I can't remember her. I always forget her name because she doesn't belong. Yeah, Kareen. Yeah, it was Kareen. Now, who never should have appeared anywhere in the story at any time. She died in a different place related to the tower and was actually murdered by the Red Aja, or I should say the Black Aja, but someone from the Red Aja. But then again, here I go. And my problem is that I read the books and I love this world and I respect this author, and I simply cannot digest the amount of ill intent and maliciousness, in my opinion, that Rafe Judkins has approached its property with. So we're going to get what all of us hated in season 1, which is diverting the story of Rand al'Thor, Perrin, Matt, the actual 3 Ta'veren, and running with this like CW married couple relationship thing that never happened. Only now we're going to have a threesome where there's going to be bisexual everything, all insert all of the check boxes. Who's looking forward to that? Not me.
Here's more nightmare fuel for you. Elaine and Brigitte. Just imagine what he's going to do.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we
don't want to go there, but they will.
Yeah, they will. Yeah. Ugh.
All right, so guys, we're going to start winding down here. It's just a huge, I think all of us owe John F. Trent many beers. And he does such a good job at this reporting. Alana's relationship was never, ever described explicitly or explored in the books. And this is a case where Judkins is just inserting his own ideology to create and showcase LGBTQ plus relationships that were never part of the books. I don't know. Whatever we thought season 1 was as far as being a joke and bad, they are now leaning into that same agenda to wreck the show. And they know that they have lost us as fans. I know that. The question is who is going to watch this show? I really doubt it's going to have the same numbers that it did in season 1, but I don't necessarily trust that numbers. So in closing, a lot of you I've interviewed and we've talked about your love and your fandom of the source material. I guess what are you left feeling? Are you angry? Are you dead inside after what Rafe Judkins did? I mean, what's your feeling reading this, and we'll wrap it up?
Morbid curiosity at what they're going to do with this, because and even having Moraine being the lead character in the show, and we all know what happens to her throughout the books. I don't know how much they're going to have to change, and how much they're going to change just for the hell of it. So, and like we've said, I'll hate watch it probably.
Let me jump on this super chat. Vic Rattlehead was the very first person to ever give me a super chat when I first got monetized. He's a channel member. Hail to you. It's great to see you. This is 400 Indian rupees. Hail to you, brother. Says Rafe's Wheel of Time still makes my blood boil. I am unable these days to go back to the books. Oh man. Hail Corey, hail Prophet. Well, hail to you, Vic Rattlehead.
Dude,
let me go ahead and give him let me go ahead and give him a super chat video. And sorry to interrupt you, Steve. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek of what you're going to get tonight.
I will kill you, Philip.
First one's free. Second one you got to pay for. Hail to you, Vic Rattlehead. Thank you so much, my wolf brother. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, I'm sorry. I forgot the super chat cadence. My bad. I should have kept my mouth shut. Reading the books has been a blessing after watching the show.
Agreed.
in my opinion. Just throw on an earbud. Well, not reading, listening. Throw on an earbud, listen to Kate Redding and Mark Kramer perform it to its utmost, and remember why I love it so much. The
Agreed.
catch-22 for it is
Let me
makes
say goodnight to.
Yeah,
we gotta say goodbye to Lyle Hammock, longtime friend of this channel, a good dude. He and his wife and the little Hammock just want to say cheers to you. Thanks for popping in, Lyle. Go ahead.
Oh, it makes me hate the show even more. Just to answer your question, Morbid Curiosity is a great answer because I'm there too, but I'm still pretty angry, especially once I start reading the books again and seeing what could have been, and all the lies they spread about how there wasn't time to do any of it. It just gets my blood boiling, just like
I agree.
Just like was just said.
I'm gonna let you go, Matt, but let me respond to Jaden. He says, "Hey, Salty, I have an idea. Why don't you talk about some of your favorite moments from the Eye of the World?" Well, we're gonna do that. I wasn't going to do another round of Wheel of Time stuff before the second season came out, but Jaden Hamilton, I'm going to credit you with the idea because I think we all need that. We all need to be reminded of why the source material was loved. And I know I interviewed people just talking about season 1 and their love of the books, but I think we need to actually spend more time in the books because people need to know that what Rafe Judkins is doing, in my opinion, is creative malpractice. So hail to you, Jaden Hamilton. Matt, what's your take on this? What briefly, how are you feeling about reading this news? Are you done? Are you pissed? What is your take?
Robert Jordan published 15 mainline books, a prequel, supporting materials, his notes and whatever. And if you edit out the Sean Chan, if you edit out the Sea People, if you edit out everything chasing the shadow, if you edited out everything Matt did dealing with the White Cloaks, if you took all that out, there would still be so much story left to tell. You could do 10 seasons of 10 episodes, and to do what this is doing to this property is beyond disgusting. People are not even getting the Wheel of Time. They're just slapping the bloody name on it.
Yep.
For profit.
Yep. Well, for virtue signaling points and to hit the ESG scores. Brahma, what's your take on this thing? How are you feeling, brother?
Well, like I said, the morbid curiosity. But I mean, you guys have a level of anger. I just have a level of apathy about the show now. I mean,
that's healthy.
I will definitely cover it, but I can't get as fired up because I've read the books probably 7 or 8 times through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the story pretty well inside and out. And I mean, he's not gonna be able to affect the story in my head.
Me either.
So I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it at this point. It's apathy towards the show.
Let me get to this comment from Roman to the Empire. Good dude. Hail, great to see you, brother. Says at least this gave them a great stage to destroy Lord of the Rings as well. You are absolutely right. I am not the only one who said it, but I have been saying it since the first episode of season 1. I hope this wasn't an indication with the Wheel of Time, what they're going to do to Tolkien. I think we have more than enough evidence with what Amazon has done, how they've attacked the fans, the images that they're releasing, how they're following the same don't be toxic fans if you don't like our insertion of agenda. I think we all know that Wheel of Time was the testing ground for doing what they're going to do to Tolkien. I would love to be wrong about that, but I think that's how things are going to go. And I'll give you my take on this. I'm obviously going to do what I do, which is to cover the show because I do love Robert Jordan. I will be really curious to see how many of those channels that, in my opinion, were just abject shills for this in season 1, how they're going to respond. I would anticipate them doing the same things they've said before. I also would expect Amazon, in my opinion, to pay for channels to be positive or to call the rest of us and attack us. I would say that is, and I would say when that happens, it's going to be pretty brutal because I think they're losing the information war, to quote a band individual that I actually have respect for. This is a war we have to keep fighting. It's a war of attrition. We had some great news with Twitter. Let me say this. I hope I hope it's great news, but I'm not going to get into that on this now. Thanks everybody who joined us today. We will continue to do these live streams as long as time and availability allow us to. I didn't want to make just generic filler crap talking about season 1. I said I was going to wait until we got news on season 2. Well, here it is. And I would anticipate we're going to get even more drops that are even more not like the books as time goes on. And Rafe Judkins is going to smile at all of us and do exactly what he threatened to do on Twitter 6 months ago, which is to change even more characters into a sexuality that aligns with his belief system. Does that sound like a showrunner that loves and respects the source material? You guys, thanks so much for showing up today. We still have 16 people in chat. I wanted to keep this under 45 minutes because I've got my own show and I got to hop on somebody else's celebration show, and I'm already losing my voice from yelling about this one. So hail to everybody who showed up. Brahma Bull, you are a solid dude. Thank you so much for showing up. Matt Unbearable 73, thank you, sir, for showing up. And Prophet of the Dragon Steve, thank you again. It's always great to work with you guys. Everybody out there, have a great day. Please join us tonight at 7:15 for the Salty Texas Sea live show with Purple Valkyrie, Maxfield Von Priestley, Zax, and Amanda Manethrin. Everybody,